It was my first year of university. I had just finished unpacking all of my stuff into my room, and my family had just left. Later on that same day, my roommate finally arrived, and right from the get-go, I knew this kid was the most socially inept person I'd ever met. I introduced myself as Curtis, sticking out my arm for a handshake. He paused, looked down at my arm as if he didn't understand it at first, then laughed and went, "Oh," and gave me an almost dead fish handshake. I had to ask him for his name since he didn't even tell me when we shook hands. He was Riley. I tried to make small talk, but he just answered my questions with yes or no's, occasionally awkwardly laughing or smiling. Within minutes, we were both just sitting on our beds on our laptops, not talking to each other. I was upset and planned on requesting to be placed with a different roommate. Anyone would be better than Riley, I thought. Riley was just a really awkward kid, but I soon learned he was much more than just that. I met some of the other kids on my floor, and they seemed cool, so that was good. I came back to my dorm after looking around campus the first night to find Riley still in the same position he was in when I left. I said, "What's up, Riley?" and he didn't answer, not to my surprise. It was 9:30. I didn't have anything to do, so I turned out the lamp on my side of the room and went to bed. I didn't actually fall asleep anytime soon, though. Riley was on his laptop until 3 in the morning. When he finally closed his laptop, I fell asleep pretty quickly but woke up within the hour. The blinds to our room had been opened, and the moonlight now creeping into the room made everything visible, including Riley sitting on the side of his bed, looking at me. I sat up, rubbed my eyes, and said, "Riley, what the hell are you doing?" He whispered back, "Sorry," and laid down. The next morning, I woke up to find Riley had already gotten up. I felt like it was the first time he'd left the room. It was a Saturday. The first Saturday of the year, meaning orientation and all the campus festivities. During the orientation, as my group was walking by the school gardens, I heard a couple of students ahead of me saying, "What is that kid doing in there?" I saw who they were talking about. It was Riley, literally sitting in the dirt behind a patch of bushes, rubbing the bark of a tree with his hand. The orientation leader didn't notice, otherwise, I'm sure she would have said something. I just walked by, not saying anything, eventually telling the two kids I overheard that he was my roommate as a way to start a conversation and maybe make some friends. They apologized for me. None of us really knew if it was appropriate to laugh or not, but we did. I made friends with those two kids, and we made plans to get together that night. I also learned when I got back to my dorm that the school found another roommate for me. Things seemed to be turning around quickly for the better. I left the room that night to go meet up with the two kids I met. And when I got back, Riley was sitting on the desk chair facing the door. I said, "Oh hey, what's up?" He said, "Nothing," very matter-of-factly. I sat down on my bed and opened my laptop and realized I forgot to lock it. I also realized that all of my emails had been opened, emails I was pretty sure I didn't even read, and a bunch of folders of mine had been opened. They all must have snooped through my laptop when I was out. When I asked him if he did, he responded, "No," very loudly, half a second after I even finished my question. I could read him like a book. This creepy kid was literally going through my computer when I was out. I knew he did it, but I didn't pursue it. I was ready to go to bed, so as I went into my bed to look for my pajamas, I felt like my clothing had all been moved around as well. I knew I'd be out of there forever by tomorrow, so I didn't say anything. I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of a zipper. I sat up and saw Riley on the ground going through my bag. I turned the lamp on this time, confronting him about it. He played dumb, saying, "I think you have my toothbrush by mistake." It was the closest thing to wits that he'd shown up until that point. Still, I knew he was lying and I knew something was wrong with him. I couldn't get physical with him. The next day, I met my new roommate in the same building and everything went well. Sunday night, after having a decent conversation with my roommate, who was no social butterfly but was miles better than Riley, we both turned off our lights and went to bed. For the third night in a row, I woke up at some odd hour of the night to a strange noise. It was a weird clicking noise. It wasn't consistent, but I'd hear it at least twice every 30 seconds. I got up, hoping to find something innocent like a heavy bag putting pressure on a weak floorboard or even a mouse. But as I scoped out the room, I realized the sound was actually coming from the other side of the door. The night light in the common area was always on. So when I looked through the peephole, I was able to see the scalp of the person standing on the other side of our door. They were looking down, so I couldn't see their face, but now that I was paying attention, I realized the tiny clicking noises were actually coming from the doorknob. I was sure the person was trying to unlock the door. I dialed the number for the campus police department, and they showed up in under 5 minutes to the common room. Only then did I feel it was safe to open the door. I found the officers to have Riley in cuffs. I had a feeling it was him. I told them everything, that he was my former roommate who was going through my stuff, so I switched dorms, only to find him trying to break into my new dorm. They took him away. I don't know what happened to him after that, but I never saw him again. He either got suspended for the semester or expelled. I got through the rest of my years at university like anybody else. However, the nightmarish experience I had with Riley still pops up in my head every now and then. I had a single dorm my first semester of sophomore year. It was in the corner of the floor, kind of secluded from the rest of the dorm rooms since it was in its own little section. You had to turn a corner to even see the door. It was nice because I'd be able to still talk with friends on my floor, invite people over to my room, and still have privacy when it was time to do homework or go to sleep. A few weeks into the semester, while studying for a bio exam, the silence was interrupted by a noise. It took me a bit to realize it was a light tapping on the door. It was so light that I almost didn't even hear it. I yelled, "Come in," but the door didn't open, so I got up to open it. Nobody was there. I walked around the corner to look down the hall. Nobody. Somebody was obviously messing with me. I went back to my bed and continued studying, this time leaving the door open. Nobody came back. The next night, a few minutes after shutting the lamp in my bedroom to go to bed, the tapping on the door returned. Only this time it was much louder, more of a knocking sound. I called out, "Who is it?" and again the knocking stopped, and nobody answered. I got out of my bed quickly and opened the door to see my small private corridor was void of any people. Again, I ran the 10 feet from my door to the corner to look down the main hallway of the floor. Nobody. The next morning, I asked some of the other kids in the dorm if they had been messing with me. Everyone said no. The next night, I woke up after having been asleep for 3 hours. Someone was knocking on my door again, this time louder than ever. I had trouble deciding whether to open the door or not. With a bout of courage, I hopped up and opened the door. Nobody was there, as I was expecting. But this time, I full-on sprinted down the tiny corridor isolating my room, and when I turned the corner, I saw the back of somebody disappearing behind the far corner on the opposite side of the hallway. I ran as fast as I could down the hallway, and as I turned to the next hallway where I saw the person a few seconds earlier, I saw a door at the end of the hallway shutting. It wasn't a dorm room, it was a bathroom. I felt like I was ready to confront whoever this joker was, so I pushed open the bathroom door with force. The light was off. I turned it on, expecting to see somebody hiding in there, but I didn't see anyone. My first instinct was to check the 2 bathroom stalls, which were both shut. I got on my hands and knees and looked under the 2 stalls. 2 heavy black boots could be seen from underneath one of the stall doors. I took a deep breath and pushed the stall open. I was confused. There were the boots sitting on the floor, but no person to wear them. And then I heard a creepy giggling noise. Thank you, not a feminine or a childlike one. It was a kind of laughing that I could only imagine to be that of a really old, crazy man. For some reason, my confidence was gone, and I was scared shitless. Therefore, I ran back to my room and shut the door. I hopped back in my bed and started texting every friend I had. Of course, everybody was asleep, though. The knocking happened one more time that night. I ignored it. It went on for about 30 seconds before whoever that person was finally gave up. I spoke to everybody on my floor the next day. Nobody else heard any knocking, and everybody swore they weren't pranking me. Everybody seemed sincere. I don't know why this person chose to harass me or who this person was. Judging by the boots and the laughing I heard, this was an older man, though, and that disturbs me. In the fall of 2012, I decided to go back to college. I was a single mom of 3 boys, but they were all in school now, and me going back was finally possible. The school I went to is a regional campus of a very large university and located in a neighborhood that is known for crime, meth, heroin, and prostitution. But it was only a 20-minute drive from my home, and I didn't really feel unsafe going there. The first day in first class was intimidating. I didn't know anyone, and I was a lot older than most of the students. I was 28 at the time. I sat down in the back of the room at a table, and a few minutes later, a lady who was around my age sat next to me. She was very skinny and smelled like cigarettes, and even had greasy hair and sunken eyes, but she started to talk to me, and she seemed normal enough. She started off the conversation telling me that she chose to sit next to me because I was wearing the prettiest blouse in the room. Kind of strange, but as an awkward person myself, I leave a lot of leeway for people to say or do awkward things before I think too deeply into it. She didn't have a backpack, any books, a pen, or a notebook, nothing. She said her financial aid hadn't come through yet, but she didn't want to fall behind in classes and asked if she could share my book. I agreed, and I even gave her a pen and paper. After the first class, she asked if I would mind going to the library with her so she could scan some of the pages to take home. I agreed, and we started to head to the library. But on the way there, she stopped and looked at her phone and said her son just texted her that she needs to come home to do something. She asked if I'd come with her, but I told her I have another class shortly and can't go. I asked her if she still wanted to go to the library first, and she said no, that she had to go to her son now, but she couldn't go alone. I kept telling her that I couldn't go with her, and then she started crying. At this point, we were in a common area outside. I was heading toward the library while I assumed she was walking to the parking lot. I told her I needed to go to the library, and she's welcome to come talk or whatever she needs, but I have to go. I didn't like being outside away from people with this woman anymore. I was trying to get back to a busier area. She gets really upset and starts screaming, basically says you to me. I can't remember how the interaction went exactly because I was frozen in confusion by how quickly she transitioned from friendly, then to crying and scared, and now to screaming in my face a slew of hateful, angry things. I turned around to start walking to the library and I called my friend so that I would have someone aware if this lady tried anything more than just screaming. I get to the library and I start to watch her through the glass doors. She's standing in the middle of a parking lot and a car pulls up with a man in it. He was very obviously upset with the woman. They looked like they were arguing, but I couldn't hear them from the inside. Eventually, she gets in the car and leaves with him. The next day, I was dreading class because I didn't know what this woman's attitude would be that day, but she wasn't there. In the end, she never came back. I didn't know her name or, at the time, how to look at a class roster, but looking back, I'm fairly certain she was not enrolled at the school at all and, for whatever reason, was trying to get me to leave with her. I wish I knew her intentions, but at the same time, I'm glad I never had to find out. This is a fresh story happening pretty recently. My family and I were driving to college to help me move in, as I'm currently a first-year student. Once we arrived, I found out that I would be living in a Jack and Jill, which means you and another room shared the same bathroom. So, essentially, I'd be living with 3 other guys. I already knew one of them in the other room. We met at orientation and got to know each other. His roommate doesn't matter for this story, though. It's my roommate, Walter, who I'm going to talk about. I got his socials beforehand, and we exchanged information prior to moving in. I tried talking to him on Instagram to get to know him better, but his replies seemed dry. On top of that, his profile seemed like one of those Discord mods that you see on Instagram Reels or TikTok. Once we moved in, I met him, and ironically, he looked like a Discord mod, except he had a skinny build around my height. He looked very pale and had a peach fuzz mustache. I tried talking to him again. His talking style matched his texting style and seemed very introverted. He stuttered a lot and always tried to end the conversation as quickly as possible. I tried to lighten him up by asking what kind of music he listens to, but he said he doesn't, as music wouldn't fill his cup of emptiness. To make things more weird, when he set up his PS5, he immediately started gaming. It's not him gaming that's weird, it's what he does when he games. Walter makes these weird grunting noises, violently shakes his body, and laughs when he spams the controller. He puts his feet in his desk cabinet, occasionally grabbing his feet and pulling them towards his body during his shakes. He also whispers to himself as he plays, whether by himself or with his online friends, and he usually repeats what he whispered twice in a giggly manner. He stays in the room 24/7 and almost never does homework. His movements alone freak me out as I'm trying to sleep, but there's more to the story. Sometime around the first week, I went out with some friends that I met in my dorm building, and I came back pretty late to my dorm. Around 1 a.m. Walter looked asleep in his bed, so I nudged it off as I went to my cabinet, which was right next to my bed. I felt my arm hairs get goosebumps and felt the urge to turn around, so I did. Walter was staring right at me with a slight grin on his face. I yelped and said, "Holy, Walter, why are you looking at me like that?" He laughed it off and said, "Dark time," and turned around to face the wall. This creeped me out, and it happened, I want to say, 3 more times. I tried to move out, but my college said they didn't have any dorms open, so I tried to move into the other room, but one of the other roommates didn't want to leave as well. This meant I was stuck with Walter for the semester, and I just had to deal with it. About 3 months passed by, and I came back from my English class. When I opened the door to my dorm, Walter stood up in a panic, asking me why I was back so early. This was weird, as my English class actually ended late, hence me getting back late. I asked him if he needed the room to himself, and he declined, striking some weird pose that looked like it was from some anime. He said that I shouldn't be worried at all. I visibly cringed at him, and his statement only made me more uncomfortable. I noticed he had a box on his desk, and when I brought it up, he told me that it wasn't important. I shrugged it off. At this time, I noticed that my iPhone charger and my scissors were missing. I asked Walter if he had seen them, and he said he had. He handed me the scissors, and as he was handing me the iPhone charger, the cable knocked his box over to me as well. The box opened, and what I saw made my heart sink. A sticky note with my name on it fell out. Alongside this was what looked to be a see-through case. Inside it were eyelashes, a pair of glasses, a pair of my socks, and a disposable photo of me that I took as a joke. He collected all of it up off the floor as he tried explaining the meaning of it, and I yelled at him to get out. He left immediately. I texted my RA about the situation, and he told me that he was out at the moment, but when he came back tomorrow, I should show him the box as evidence so that they would have a reason to kick Walter out. So, I got the box and hid it within my laundry bin. I felt really rattled, and the sight of my roommate disgusted me. However, in an hour, he came back. I just told him to stay on his side and not to talk to me. After that, no words were spoken. I tried to stay awake out of fear that he might try to find the box, but after a long day, I fell asleep around 2 a.m. When I woke up, I saw Walter was gone, and it felt good seeing him out of the room for once. But then I remembered the box. I went to my laundry bin, and it was gone. I panicked, and not long after, my RA was knocking on the door. I let him in and told him the story. While he did believe me, he said he couldn't do anything without that box, otherwise, he'd just be going off my word alone. Which wasn't much. I felt like I was losing my mind. The RA left, and about 5 hours later, Walter came back. I asked him what he did with the box. He played dumb and said, "What box? I don't know what you're talking about." I pressured him to stop playing dumb, but Walter kept denying it. I couldn't stand to look at him or be in the same room with him anymore. It's now the second semester, and yes, I'm still dorming with Walter, unfortunately. He did let me know that he will never do it again, and that if he does, he'll let me know and we'll move out immediately. I took his word, and we're still dorming as of today. However, I stay out of the room as much as I can. He still creeps me out. The worst part is that I can't sleep sometimes nor focus during the day as I keep thinking of what was in the box. Why did he steal my photo? Why did he steal my socks? What were the glasses for? The part that leaves me scared each time is what those eyelashes were doing there, and perhaps weirdest of all, was that he labeled the box with my name. Thanks for watching the video. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to watch the latest videos.